As amazing as Joker's been in his career so far, there was another international big man who may have actually been better. In his prime, Arvydas Sabonis was said to be one of the greatest basketball players on the planet. Yet at the time, NBA teams really weren't scouting overseas and lacking information on European talent. This is why for several years the 7'3" Lithuanian superstar was virtually unknown. However, one team did their homework, and in the 1985 draft, the Hawks took Sabonis with a 77 pick. Yet the pick was voided as the Soviet didn't allow any of their athletes to move to Western countries. Despite his inability to play in the NBA, the Hawks picking him shed light on how good of a player Sabonis was. In the 80s and 90s, centers were physical and their offensive game was centered around the low post. So a 7'3" big man who can play like a guard and was an elite playmaker was extremely rare. And for NBA players who actually saw him play, they said his skill set was off the chart. So it was no surprise the following year in 1986, the Portland Trail Blazers would select Sabonis with a 24th pick. But again, Sabonis couldn't join the NBA, and at this point he had suffered his first serious injury. Over the next several years, despite being drafted by the NBA, Sabonis chose to stay in Europe. And the injuries started to pile up, and by the 94-95 season, Sabonis was a shell of himself. So by this point, he finally decided to join the Blazers. During his physical, the Blazers medical team literally labeled him as handicapped, but the Blazers decided to roll the dice on him. Despite being a shell of himself, Sabonis did not disappoint in his first season, finishing runner-up for Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man. This man entered the league out of his prime and still managed to be one of the best players in the game. He may have been the greatest what-if player in history.